When the blood work came, and this number really shocked me, 2 numbers. My cortisol was off and my insulin was off. Now that really shocked me because I thought I ate well. I thought I was exercising. Now insulin is a hormone that regulates your blood sugars. And if it is not controlled, you can predispose to diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes, which is brought on by lifestyle. So my insulin was high and my cortisol was high. But it also made sense to me. It made sense because when your cortisol, which is a stress hormone, goes up, it shows that your body is under stress, a lot of stress. And when cortisol is released on a regular basis, guess what happens? Do you know where it shows up? How it shows up in your body is it shows up by storing more fat in that midsection.
Hi, I'm your host, Roseanne Kamau, a certified nutrition coach with a background in psychology. Here on Hey Sugar Podcast, you will learn how to live a healthy and sustainable lifestyle without dieting. I'll be teaching you practical tips that you can incorporate in your unique lifestyle. I am going to help you break any dieting mindset traps and show you that a healthy and sustainable lifestyle is doable. So if you're ready to change your life for good and create a healthy and sustainable lifestyle for yourself, then this is for you. Let's go.
Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to be a little vulnerable, or a lot vulnerable. I'm not even sure. But I wrote this email sometime in October of last year, and I sent it to our email list in October 2023. And it was really a life update of sorts because I wanted to share an update of what was happening in my life and in my lifestyle because I needed to let folks know that, listen, even as coaches, sometimes we go through our own struggles. And so when I shared that update, I was sharing it from a point of being on the other side. Now, I'm one of those people who truly believes that before you share an update, it's important that you've sort of figured it out. At least that's the way I am. In fact, I've tried to sort of share my journey as I've been struggling. And I've just never fully connected with that because I kind of haven't figured it out. Like I'm sort of figuring it out as we move along. And so I've always preferred to share things when I'm on the other side. And so when I wrote this email in October of 2023, and I shared it with our entire email list, I was surprised by the feedback, if I can be honest. I was surprised by what they wrote back. I was surprised at how much it resonated with them. And I was surprised that a lot of people were also struggling with the same things that I was struggling with. And so to say that I'm a little nervous is an understatement, but I think because of literally how their response was, I thought, you know what, I will share it with you because I think it might help you on your own journey. And so we're going to go back to 2020 because that's when this journey started. So in 2020, you all know where the world was. This was the COVID years when the world got shut down. Now, when the world was shut down, I, that time was actually working out at CrossFit. So I was working out at CrossFit, but as soon as the world shut down, and I'd always been a believer in working out in groups. In fact, I still prefer that. I think I just do better when I'm in a group setting. There are people who do better alone. There are people who prefer smaller, intimate sessions. I like to be with people. Like I get my energy that way. I'm an ambivert, so I get energy from people, but I also like, my alone time. And so when the world was shut down, the first thing that popped in my mind was, oh my God, that means I'm going to have to work out at home alone. And I don't like working out at home alone. Like, how am I even going to be able to hack this? That's when I realized, by the way, we have stories also, because in 2020, I worked out every single day of 2020, until the world was open up. I actually don't have the actual dates, but until it was open up, I literally worked out every day, Monday to Monday. I would get my coach from CrossFit. He would send the workout. I would do my workouts. I would share that. In fact, there's even some workouts where we did together live. And that's what I did the whole of 2020. I also ate relatively well. In fact, if you know how people struggle in their nutrition, I always thank God that nutrition is not an area I struggle in. And I'm grateful to God for that. And so I ate well. I ate balanced diet. I literally ate well throughout the whole year. Like that, I don't struggle in nutrition. I was drinking my water. There's one thing though that I added that year was I started drinking coffee, which had never been much of a coffee drinker. So I started drinking coffee in 2020. And I would drink coffee and I would do my collagen. Like I literally I continued on living that lifestyle. Now, at some point, I realized I wasn't sleeping. At some point, and I'm not even sure when, but I know it was in 2020, I wasn't sleeping. But because a lot of people, the world was shut down, there was stories of, people have insomnia, there are people who are not sleeping. There's obviously the fear, there's obviously because there was that heightened stress level. I just wasn't sleeping enough. In fact, not sleeping enough, I wasn't sleeping. So much so that I found myself going to bed at the oddest hours. Sometimes I'd go to bed at 3 a.m., other days at 6 a.m., other times at 11 p.m., other times it would be 11 a.m. because I had an all-nighter just not sleeping. And I came to the point I even realized, I even knew when my body was awake. Like I'd be up all day. I know it's time to go to bed, but I have zero sleep. I could not, Yani, how you have a feeling of, I need to sleep? It was gone. And so at some point I realized, oh my goodness, I'm struggling with insomnia. And so this continued on, this continued on up until 2021, 2022. So in 2021, so the world opened up and we are going back to life, but I'm still noticing I am not sleeping. But then I begin to notice something different and something new. I say, once I lost my initial weight when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I never struggled with my weight again. So we're talking about 10 plus 15 years. So this is the last 4 years. I began to notice my midsection is not looking as it used to, because I've always said, I've always been lean. And so I told my husband, I don't understand. I'm doing everything right. I'm eating well. I'm exercising. I'm drinking my water. I'm doing everything right. And I truly could not see and I couldn't understand what was going on. And so I actually went to see a doctor because I also recognized something was off. So I went to see a functional medicine doctor just to help me understand and explain what could be wrong. If I'm doing everything right, I am eating well, I am exercising enough, I am drinking my water, I am not stressed per se. So I went to see the doctor. He asks me a couple of questions. And as he asks me the questions, he actually asks me a question. He says, how is your sleep? As soon as he asked that, I knew. Like, he did not even need to explain, but for whatever reason, I had been so blinded to that, I could not see it until someone asked me, how is your sleep? The minute he said that, it was like all the answers came to me. Like I had my answer right there. I wasn't sleeping. Nonetheless, then he asked me my age, and I think that time I was 46. That was in 2021. So let's do the math. I'm doing the math. Can someone help me? Okay, so anyway, I was 40 something. So I was in my mid 40s. And when he said that, then he said, lack of sleep is a classic sign of perimenopause. Have you ever heard like the voices of heaven, and it's like heaven opened up and all your questions were answered in that moment? Because that's exactly what happened. In that moment, I knew. In that moment, everything was answered and I knew what the issue was. Because obviously, I'm in this field, so I understand and I know, but I couldn't see that for myself. And this is where I want to let you know, we all have blind spots, even the best of the best. And that's why coaches have coaches, because I have a coach, actually not a coach, I have several coaches who help me. So coaches also need coaches, but I needed that doctor to sort of show me my own blind spot. And so I knew I wasn't sleeping enough. And that is when then we went on and he did a couple of tests. And you guys, when the test results came back, when I tell you I was shooketh at my core, because one of the things is I'm always saying health is what drives me, because I had a diagnosis of high cholesterol when I was young, like when I was 29 years old. So for me, health is one of those things that is really important to me. And I'm always trying to do everything in my lifestyle to really live a healthy and a sustainable lifestyle. So when the blood work came, and this number really shocked me, 2 numbers. My cortisol was off and my insulin was off. Now that really shocked me because I thought I ate well. I thought I was exercising. Now insulin is a hormone that regulates your blood sugars. And if it is not controlled, you can predispose to diabetes, specifically type 2 diabetes, which is brought on by lifestyle. So my insulin was high and my cortisol was high. But it also made sense to me. It made sense because when your cortisol, which is a stress hormone, goes up, it shows that your body is under stress, a lot of stress. And when cortisol is released on a regular basis, guess what happens? Do you know where it shows up? How it shows up in your body is it shows up by storing more fat in that midsection. And because cortisol is being released in your body, insulin then gets released because it's trying to balance things up. So those 2 hormones were off in my body. And so I knew what I needed to do because I knew I was eating right. I knew that was working. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes, because I know my body well and I know my lifestyle well, was, the suggestion was for me to go on a keto diet. In fact, when I came home and I told my husband, that is like, imagine I've been told to do a keto diet. And I was like, and I'll tell you why I got upset. I got upset because I should have been asked, first, what do you eat? Like, what are you eating? In fact, when my measurements were taken, even though the doctor was shocked, one of the things were like, but you know what? You still have a very small waistline for people in our population. But you also, how you know your body and you know when you're changing. Does that make sense? And so when I was told to go on a keto diet, it was an immediate rejection. And it was an immediate rejection because I know how I eat. And I've also, by the way, tried this in the past. And I know how it made me feel. Terrible energy, low, like it was just horrible for me. And it would have been nice to see what I eat also. It would have been nice to ask me, what do you typically eat? Because to see that my foods are actually, and I'm not saying that to say, but I also know how I eat. Make sense? Anyway, so when I told my husband I've been told to go on a keto diet, I was like, man, I don't think that's whatever. But I knew I needed to figure how to sleep. I knew that. And so that became my next goal. In fact, when I now started assessing my sleep patterns, I realized I was sleeping so erratically. Some days 11, some days at 3, some days at 6, some days, it was just all over the place. I remember even sleeping, literally staying up all night and even trying to sleep during the day just to sleep. And even then my body had no sleep. Let me give you a quick fun fact. All the programs that I've done inside that I coach, most of those programs were created in the middle of the night. Those nights I couldn't sleep. I also know I'm a night owl. I focus better at night. So the reason that the fact that I couldn't sleep got my brain focusing and got me to create more things. And also what happens when you're creating and when you're in a space of complete focus and you're doing things you love, guess what happens? You wake up even more because your brain is alert and it's awake. So these are just some of the mistakes that I was making. And so once I was told I needed to figure my sleep so that I can balance my hormones, I knew exactly what I needed to do was I needed to go to sleep. So the first thing I did was I made the decision that I'll be going to bed at, I think it was 11 to midnight. That's when I was like, okay, let's try this hour. And then I made the decision I would not be on my phone. And that became even the most difficult part of this process. Because what I realized was when I'd be in a bed, I'm trying to sleep, I'd be so awake. And you know what I would do? I'd be up on my phone, scrolling. Yeah, I'm ashamed to admit it, but I'm just telling you the truth. That's exactly what happened. I'd be up on my phone and I'd just be scrolling. And so what would happen? I wouldn't sleep. I would not sleep. And it's not until, you guys, everybody has a trigger. And this is my trigger. And I just want to let you know what my trigger was. I think it was 2022 or 2023. I don't have the actual date, but I have pictures. We were hosting a Hey Sugar dinner. It's a dinner that we have. So within our program, so I coach women and I help them lose weight without dieting. We usually have a party once a year. And in this party, everyone comes and all we're doing is we're literally just celebrating women. And so my sister, I had seen a couple of dresses and I was like, oh, send me these dresses. So I ordered a couple of dresses and one of my friends brought them over to me. So this dress is the dress I was going to wear for the dinner. So remember, I'm not sleeping, right? Remember, I know everything, but your girl still ain't sleeping. So my sister sends me this dress and I wear this dress and I look at myself in the mirror. And you guys, I sat down and I cried. I sat down and I cried because I could not recognize myself. This is the picture. This is the image here. In fact, I sent her. I did not like this. I'm like, keep this for me. I'm going to have to figure this thing out. I'm going to have to sleep. And then the thing I remember her saying was, you've also started drinking a lot of milk. So that's what she told me. You've also started drinking a lot of milk. So you might want to consider your sleep and the milk that you're taking. So after I sat down, got in my feels, I cried as much as I cried. I was like, okay, now, Shiko, get back up, figure your sleep. And I knew in that moment what I needed to do. And I knew I needed to be off my phone. And because I did not like the way I looked, that was the trigger for me. I had gone to the doctors, yeah. They had looked at my whatever, I knew my lab levels were off. For whatever reason, remember when I had high cholesterol, the lab results, that's what got me going and got me waking up. For whatever reason, you guys, I don't know what happened this time. Even though I saw my insulin and my cortisol were off, and you know my health, and I'm just being real and I'm just being honest. Take it the way you'll take it. Don't judge me. Listen, girl, don't you judge me. But when I looked at the results, okay, fine, I knew I needed to change, but they didn't wake me up the way my high cholesterol did. And even that shocked me myself. It truly did. When I saw the picture and I saw how I looked, that shocked me. That woke me up. And it is the truth, and that's how it is. And it is what it is, okay? And so when I saw that picture, I was like, okay, I know what needs to happen. I need to sleep. And that night, after I finished crying, after I sent her that video, she better have it, by the way, because I need to have that video to play here. I said, I'm going to make sure I put my phone away. And so what I would do, I made a decision. And at 8 p.m., I would put my phone away. Now, before we even go there, let me tell you guys a couple of things that had happened. One of my best friends had realized that I was not present when we were hanging out with them. I was constantly on my phone. My husband had even said how I'm attached to my phone. The kids had also said, Mommy, you're not being present. You're on your phone a lot. You guys, when I tell you, I actually feel so guilty. Even as I say it, I can feel the emotion and I can feel a bit of stress kicking in. Because when I look back, I actually wonder, who was that? What version of me was that? Because I actually lost valuable time with my children. I've lost valuable time with my husband. I lost valuable, when they needed me, I just wasn't as present. A lot of the clients I've had, actually my business, most of my business, I've actually built it on social media. So I found a lot of my clients on social media. And so a lot of what I was doing was I was working. But then there was also times, if I'm being honest, I was scrolling mindlessly. And I needed to go through that. And I've always said in life, everything that you're going through, you must go through it. But what's the lesson that you're learning? Because a couple of things I realized. I lost time on my relationships with my family, my husband, the kids. My best friend had noticed that as well because she mentioned it and she was like, Roseanne, you are not being present. I've actually noticed that. And you need, by the way, and you also need people who are going to tell you the truth, especially someone like me who prides myself as being a growth. I like to grow. Personal growth is very important for me. I need those people around me to really tell you the truth that stings, because that's when you really reflect back, look at yourself, and you decide what you're going to do. So when I decided I wanted to put my phone away, that night, I put it in a different room. So I had to reschedule my work, right? Because no more, I wanted to make sure no phones at dinner time. That's another thing I decided. No phones when we go out on dates with my husband. I just put my phone away because I just realized I wasn't being present. I wasn't present with my kids. I wasn't present with my husband. I wasn't present even with my friends because I was being pulled on my phone, looking at, what are the things I need to focus on? What are the things I need to do on my business? I just wasn't being present. And I regret that deeply, but now I show up better. So that night, when I put my phone away, I put it in a different room. So it never came to our bedroom because I needed to sleep. Now, when I tell you guys, it did not take a day, it did not take a week, it took months for me to feel sleep. That's exactly what happened. And this is where discipline comes in, because it was day after day after day of going to bed at between 11 p.m. and 12 p.m., not feeling any sleep. It wasn't even near. You know how you're like, ata kidogo, like just a little, I could not feel it. And so what I did what I read in books, was get books that are boring, read books. So I got my husband's financial books because I think finance is boring, okay? Sorry for all of you in finance. And I would grab those books and I would start reading them just to, because for me, if they're boring, you will drift away. Then this one day, I literally read a bunch of them. Then this one day I go to the library office library, and I see there's one book I bought many years ago. That book was so interesting. I read that book in a night. Another mistake, don't read interesting book, but I also didn't know it was interesting. Obviously, the reason I hadn't picked it up for many years, and I bought it, I think, in 2016, you know how you buy books and some of them just stay in your library? It was one of those books. But it was so interesting. I literally read that book the whole night, and I finished the book the whole night. So if you find something interesting, don't read something interesting because your brain is alert, your brain is awake, and it becomes quite awake. So it literally took me months to start feeling sleep. And I will share with you the things that I did because I actually know them at the top of my head. And one of the things was I made the decision the night I sat down and I cried by the bedside. I made the decision that day, I will figure what needs to get done and I will sleep. I actually made the decision, I will put my phone away. That was a decision that I made. So whenever you find yourself at a crossroads, sometimes we come in between ourselves and the thing that we need to achieve. So the day I decided I am putting my phone away, that night, it took me, not days, not weeks, it took me months to finally sleep. And every single night, and it was months on end, what I did was grab books, and it was the same routine, 8 p.m. off. When we are having dinner with our family, actually we usually have dinner at 7:30 with our family. So literally it was 7:30, but the 8 p.m. was the last thing. Let me check social media. In fact, I told our team, please help me here on social media because I'm not going to be on social media at these certain hours in the evening. I put that away. When I put it away, I grabbed books. What are the things I did? I want to share with them because I know there are some of you who are struggling with your sleep. Now, in retrospect, when I look back, there were 2 things that were going on. Actually, 3 things that were going on. Number 1, being on the phone and social media. Number 2, there was the stress of the world being shut down and not knowing what to know. So there was an underlying subconscious fear of COVID. And thirdly, perfect storm for me, perimenopausal. So I had the hormonal issues happening. So what did I do? First things first. I made sure I woke up the same time and I went to bed the same time. So you want to make sure you're waking up the same time and you're going to bed at the same time. That's the first thing. Why? You're beginning to retrain your body because our body functions best on a body clock, right? So you're going to bed at the same time, you're waking up at the same time. In fact, what science shows is they say it's best to wake up the same time. And so for me, I had to make sure I wake up at the same time. And then as soon as I wake up, remember, I have no phone in my room. So no phones in my room, and I would not pick. So obviously I wouldn't pick up the phone. What I would do is I would then open up the curtains, and I would make sure my eyes would actually see the sunlight. So even before I went out, because my husband wakes up early, so he leaves me in my room. So once I open the curtains, I would make sure I would literally get out through the window. In fact, I would open so that I'm not seeing the window. Allow the lights, the rays of the sun, the morning sun, to hit your eyes. What you're doing is you're beginning to reset your body clock. And then what I would do is I would obviously go downstairs, get my lemon water, and I would go outside and actually be in the sun for at least 10 minutes. Whether it was walking, whether it was sitting, whether it was being with the dogs, because I have 2 big, huge dogs, I would just sit outside in the sun. That became routine. Whether it worked, and I never gave up. I never said it's not working. Remember, I told you it took me months. I don't have the actual time frame, but I know it wasn't 3 months. It was more like 6, 7, 8 months, literally. So it took time. It did take time. So that was the first thing that I did. The second thing that I did, if you recall, I told you in 2020, I started drinking coffee. I cut out all caffeine. So no caffeine from coffee. I do remember I still was drinking tea, Kenyan tea. I was still drinking tea. But I did cut out the coffee because that was also a new habit that I had implemented. And I remember sharing this in my story on social media at Coach Roseanne on Instagram, where I'm super active. So I remember sharing with the ladies, the sleep struggles, the sleep issues, caffeine, and ladies will be like, yeah, cut out the caffeine, don't drink this, blah, blah, blah. And that's what I love because the community is so great and they're always trying to help you. So the second thing was I cut out caffeine. The third thing I did is I made sure I was on my laptop at very specific hours. So during the day, and I would make sure I tried as much as possible to be off any lights, any white lights. I tried to be off of those lights by 6, 7 p.m. So I tried to do all my work, whatever we needed to do with the team behind the scenes. Try to get off the laptop and on my phone. And for sure, by 8 p.m., I was off my phone completely. So this was these were hard rules that I set for myself. Then I would make sure, for me, I shower in the morning and in the evening. So in the evening, I created this nighttime routine. By the way, what I did, these are tips that I'm helping you that are going to help you. What does this nighttime routine, how would it look like? So I'd make sure I'd have herbal teas. So I switched, so I'm obviously having my water, but I switched to more herbal teas. Peppermint tea, rooibos tea. I also had a hibiscus tea. I just like that one for the flavor and the taste, but mostly peppermint and rooibos tea. And I also added another one called valerian root. What this did was it helps, number one, not only reduce caffeine. Oh, and chamomile tea. I would have this and I would rotate this. And the key, because these are relaxants, right? Like the peppermint tea, the chamomile tea, they're shown to help relax you. Rooibos tea, that's a tea from South Africa. It's been shown to help relax you and calm you down. So I'd have this on a regular basis and I'd start having them in the evening. I'd then soak my feet in Epsom salt, try and get more magnesium. I also started taking a magnesium supplement just to help relax my body and relax my joints. Did this happen overnight? Was I doing these things on a regular basis? Yes. Did I see changes overnight? No. There now became some days I would sleep at 1 a.m. Other days I'd sleep at 11. Other days it would be 12:45. Other days it would be 3 a.m. Other days it would be 6 a.m. It was super erratic, but at least I started feeling a hint of sleep. At this point is also the point when I was also beginning I'd shared was thinking of getting into hormone replacement therapy because I could tell my hormones were whack. I could absolutely tell that. And even in months of trying to get myself to sleep, I was really trying to say it's actually, because it did take a while, but I was determined, And so doing this consistently, I remember when I started continued going to bed at around 11 o'clock. But then my husband was so good. He goes to bed early, but it was like he would stay up with me. Like we'd try to stay up, try to help me sleep. And so what I realized is I started now sleeping I could notice now sleep maybe like about 12 midnight, 12:30. Okay? Consistently, like it's like my body clock is beginning to come back. Oh my God. You guys, when I started feeling sleep, it was like, oh my God. Because listen, why is even this a big deal, you guys? Even ask my girlfriends from high school. I'm one of those girls that I am a sleeper, okay? I am, forget even the morning person bit, because I do mostly evening. When I sleep, I am a deep sleeper. I would go to bed and I would sleep, and even my parents would make fun. My sister would be like, thugs will come, there'll be noise, and me, I am like, Dani, I am gone. So when I explain to my friends I can't sleep, they'd be looking at me like, huh? You of all people? Because it's like Roseanne and sleep. Like, we're kind of unknown. My friends, even my buddies, there's a friend group that we had in Boston. We'd always used to go out and do, go hang out, take our kids places. So like we're renting maybe like a house somewhere, like you rent an Airbnb, you're going away for the weekend. They knew, Roseanne, don't touch her morning, don't touch her sleep. So it was like a shocker. So even I was shocked that I couldn't sleep. So when I began to feel sleep, I have never appreciated it so much like I did. I would feel like, I might tell my husband, oh my God, imagine I'm feeling sleepy. I'd be like, all right, let's go to sleep. I'd be like, yes, honey, let's go. It was one of those where I don't take it for granted. And over time, by 11 o'clock, I'd finally found my sleep back. This took a couple of years, you guys. As I'm recording this is 2024. In 2023, because I know last summer, September of 2023, I was still struggling. But now, was it 2023 or 2022? No, it was last year because I remember going to Boston. Yeah, it was last year. So now I no longer struggle with my sleep. And what did I do? It's those tools that I've shared with you. And I want you to go back and use those tools. And I can quickly recap them. Number one, I want you to strongly encourage you. First, decide why. Why is it important for you to sleep? Everything in life, I'm telling you, we always take action from a place of our intention. Why is this important for you? For me, health is important. I needed to sleep. Secondly, I had realized I wasn't focusing enough. I had noticed my mental energy was not there. So my output wasn't as good as it needed to be. Physically, I'd noticed that mid-belly section being there. Spiritually, I'd noticed I wasn't connected to God as much as I'd want to. This is all connected. The emotional part, I wasn't there. I remember I was not present with my family, with my kids. Mentally, I'm not feeling like I'm focusing as much. My energy is actually low. I'm lethargic. All these things are happening because I am not sleeping enough. So what are those things that you want to do? Number one, make that decision. Number two, I'd encourage you to put your phone away. Make sure it's not anywhere near your bed. Put it far. If you're struggling with sleep, once you've made the decision, look for boring books that you can read. Go for some people, by the way, I've been coaching a lot of clients. A lot of issues are slowly coming up because that season of the last couple of years, we've had to sort of get back into ourselves and really try to understand what's happening. For some people, there's deep-rooted issues that are coming up for you. Go seek help. Seek help from a therapist. Seek help from a counselor. Seek help from a mentor. Sometimes you're going to need that. Create routines that are going to help you. Routines that you can be able to sustain. So morning for me, wake up, open the curtains. I still do that to this day. Go outside in the sun. Go for my walk. By the way, when you go for your walk, do not wear shades or sunglasses. Let your eyes feel the natural lights. Let the light particles, like you need to feel the light. That helps to reset your system. If you can work from outside, like where there's sunlight, try and do that. If you're in an office, can you go outside for a couple of minutes, even 5-10 minutes? It's all helpful, like it all adds up. Create routines. So reduce your caffeine intake. I know I had to reduce my caffeine intake, specifically from coffee. Eventually, much later, I've now stopped tea, specifically milk with tea. That's just for myself. I've just stopped that. Then you want to create evening routines. Evening routines, at what point are you going to put your phone away? Wake up the same time. Go to bed the same time. When are you putting your phone away? Be present with your family. Drink your herbal teas. Rooibos is great. Peppermint is great. Chamomile tea. These are great teas that you can have. I got valerian root and I got that from Amazon. So you can get that. And then go to bed the same time. Make sure your bed is cool. I tend to run on the colder side personally. And so I personally prefer warm, not hot. Warm or hot, but studies show a cool bed, you actually sleep better. But again, because of our temperatures, because I typically just, right now, my fingers are a little cold. My toes are a little cold. It's just, we're all just very different. We run slightly cold. So I would also do that. Find the same time that you're going to bed. Wake up the same time. And then these are now bonuses. Make sure your room is, there's no clutter in your bedroom, your living space, there's no clutter, because what clutter is a form of stress. Whenever our homes, our rooms, our bedrooms, our bathrooms are cluttered, that's a form of stress. And remember, it's about healthy sustainability. So remove all the clutter so that you're not feeling stressed. You'll be surprised how much stress you're carrying when you have clutter around your beds, around your rooms. So make sure so when you wake up, what you do, make your bed. First thing that you do, make your bed. 70% of the work is done. Then put everything else, neatly. So these are some of the things that I would encourage you to do. And I would encourage you to do them consistently. Don't give up. If you've been struggling like me, please let me know. What are the biggest issues? What are the biggest struggles you've been feeling? Manage your stress, because stress is also another thing that can keep you can find yourself just being awake and being stressed. So look for ways to manage your stress. One of the things that I realized is when we're going through perimenopause, and as I was going through this, there are so many symptoms that a lot of women go through. And I had some of these symptoms which I hadn't been able to attribute. So I'm going to attach a poster here so that you can see. In fact, let me put a list here of all the symptoms that I need you to be aware of. We're going to post them on the screen that you can experience as a perimenopausal woman. And some of the symptoms that you're going to get are symptoms that you may not even be able to attribute to changing of those hormones. Personally, I began to have joint aches, specifically in my fingers. I was beginning to wonder, am I getting arthritis? That was one. I also began to notice my shoulder. There's something I want you guys to look up known as frozen shoulder. I've had this issue for actually months, perpetuated for months. And frankly, I could only attribute it to perimenopause and really the reduction of estrogen. I also noticed I would wake up in the morning and my face would just be puffy. One day it's puffy, the next day it's not. And I'd always wonder, what is that? So that's water retention. So there was excess water retention. I did have the sporadic hot flashes. That was sporadic, but I did get that. Jaw aching, like my jaws were hurting. I remember thinking, what in the world is causing that? I had tenderness in my boobs. And the last time that happened is when I was pregnant with my kids. So all these are different symptoms that I know I experienced, which a lot of us women experience. But I want you to look at all these symptoms so that you ain't crazy. These are things that we're going to be going through. And as you adjust lifestyle and speak to your doctor about what are some of the things that you can do to help you, I believe are going to help you manage this better. Oh, okay, guys. So this has been, I wanted to share this about me, my journey, my story on the things that I know I've struggled with. I am now on the other side. I continue these practices to this day. I am probably not as much, I'm still on social media late at night, but I am not stuck on my phone. That is very important. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you for joining me for this podcast. I hope it's been helpful. And for those of you, if you're struggling with your sleep, please do let us know below. Has this jumped out to you? Has this been helpful? What else would you want to hear? Thank you for joining me. And as always, remember, you've got one life, you've got one body, and I want you to treasure it.